What's up, everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Tricky Jim at Full Grip Games. Going to be giving you the highlights from the Greensboro, North Carolina Regional Championships today, which took place last weekend. Special shout out to Legendary Gaming Network as well as LimitlessTCG for their excellent coverage of this event, which I'll be using for this highlight video. Over 380 Masters players competed for the top spot in this expanded regional event, with newcomer Andrew Martin facing down against Azul Garcia Griego, a seasoned veteran in the finals. Azul playing an Archie's Blastoise deck against Andrew Martin and his Drampa-Garbodor deck. Andrew Martin winning the entire thing, his first ever regional championship win with Drampa-Garbodor. We also see he played Drampa-Garb at the Dallas Regional Championships as well to a top 64 finish and was hot off a top 16 finish in Collinsville when he was able to take down his first regional in Greensboro. The top 8 decks from Greensboro look very different from the decks we saw in Toronto just a week previous. With no Trevenant in sight, Toronto, we had 4 copies of Trevenant, and of course Jimmy Pendarvis winning the entire thing with Night March. No Night March, no Trevenant in Greensboro, but we did see 2 Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX making their top 8 debut in expanded format, as well as 2 copies of Zoroark Garbodor, a Shock Lock, and of course 2 Archie's Blastoise, as well as Andrew Martin's winning Drampa-Garb deck. We saw a huge shift in the metagame landscape happen between the Toronto Regional Championships and the Greensboro Regional Championships just a week's time. There were 9 players piloting Archie's Blastoise, the most represented deck in Day 2 at Greensboro, with a 20% meta share, closely followed by Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX, 8 players piloting the deck in Day 2, and an 18% meta share. Contrast that with Toronto, where we only had 1 player piloting Archie's Blastoise in Day 2. That was Russell Lepar, who eventually finished in top 8, and 1 copy of Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. By far the most represented deck in Day 2 of Toronto was Trevenant, 10 players playing it, and a 31% meta share compared to the Greensboro Regional Championships, where we had just 2 players playing Trevenant in Day 2. Also, Night March was hugely represented with 4 players playing the deck in Day 2, and of course, Jimmy Pendarvis eventually winning the entire Toronto Regional Championships with Night March. We only saw 1 copy of Night March in Day 2 of Greensboro. Garbodor also saw a big increase in play, the 4th most represented deck in Day 2 of Greensboro with a 9% meta share and 4 players playing the deck. Not many at all. In fact, no players playing a strictly Garbodor deck in Day 2 of Toronto. Safe to say that players showed up prepared for Night March in Greensboro. I saw a lot of players playing Oricorio and Karen on the day, which could explain its lack of representation in Day 2 of the Greensboro Regional Championships. The top 8 series between Azul and Alex Szymanski is one of the most exciting series of Pokemon I've ever seen. Alex Szymanski playing Zoroark Garbodor was able to win Game 1 despite Azul taking a huge lead with Eevee and Snorlax GX, followed up with a huge 3-prize turn with Maelstrom GX. Alex slowly but surely marches back by locking up abilities with Garbotoxin Garbodor turn after turn, using Klefki to do so, and then eventually using Guzma to bring up a huge Magikarp and Wailord GX on the bench to finish it off for game after an N-1. Game 2 goes much better for Azul, even though Alex Szymanski is able to start Wobbuffet, the best starter in his deck for this matchup. Azul is able to get the turn 1 Archies and let loose, leaving Alex Szymanski with nothing in hand after he shuffles and draws his 4 cards. Eventually, Azul is able to power up his Eevee and Snorlax and bench Alex out, while Alex is only able to find a lone execute to try and keep him from losing the game. Game 3 is what has everybody talking about this series. Alex Szymanski goes first, starts Wobbuffet again, and is able to get a turn 1 Brigette to set up his bench Pokemon perfectly, while Azul is unable to find a turn 1 Archies or even a turn 2 Archies and has to cheer up to his lone Eevee and Snorlax. Alex starts taking prizes immediately, while Azul fails to find any footing in this matchup. Eventually, Alex goes up 5 prizes against Azul, and Azul is on the clock. He has 1 turn to prevent himself from losing the game. Finally, he is able to pare his hand down and gets the Archies, but has to rely on an order pad flip to find his only field blower so that he can set up and hopefully find the cards he needs to Towering Splash. He hits a heads on his order pad, finds field blower, then Shamans for 6. He finds a Trainer's Mail and a Computer Search. He needs 2 copies of Superior Energy Retrieval in order to get the 8 energy he needs on the Magikarp and Wailord GX. The Trainer's Mail reveals a Superior Energy Retrieval. He comp searches for the other one and gets the 8 energy Towering Splash for all 6 prizes and a 1-turn KO, something I've never seen in the Pokemon trading card game before. In top 4, we saw the battle of the Garbodor decks, with Arlo Neal playing Zora Garbodor against Andrew Martin, our eventual winners, Drampa Garbodor deck. In Game 1, Arlo Neal is able to take control of the matchup, dealing significant damage to 2 different Drampa-GX and knocking out a Tapu Lele-GX as well. Andrew Martin is able to eventually take a big knockout with Trashalanche, but Arlo Neal has Guzma for game on a critically damaged Drampa. In Game 2, Andrew Martin starts an unlikely hero in this matchup, Sigilyph-GX, and is able to take multiple prizes with Sigilyph's Sonic Wing attack. Both players are struggling to set up, but the Sigilyph keeps on attacking, while eventually Arlo is able to find some bench Pokemon and uses Riotous Beating to deal 100 damage to Sigilyph, which strikes back with Mirror Counter. Sigilyph is able to finish off the Zoroark GX, and then Andrew Martin only has 1 prize remaining, which he's able to clean up with Trashalanche Garbodor. In Game 3, Andrew Martin is able to do what Drampa Garb does best, turns this match into a war of attrition, where he limits Arlo's resources using Drampa's Righteous Edge turn after turn to remove DCE from Arlo's side of the field, then also relies on Parallel heavily to remove Arlo's bench Pokemon from play. With only 3 bench Pokemon to work with, Arlo has a hard time dealing enough damage to knock out any of Andrew Martin's GX Pokemon and wastes a lot of resources, which allows Andrew Martin to come in with Trashalanche Garbodor to take big one-hit knockouts and clean up the rest of the game, propelling him into the finals. In the finals, we have Andrew Martin with Drampa Garbodor against Azul Garcia Griego's Archie's Blastoise deck. Andrew Martin goes first, opening Wobbuffet, the best starter in his deck for this matchup. He gets a turn 1 Brigette as well, quickly grabbing Sigilyph-GX as well as 2 Trubbish. He attaches the double colorless to Sigilyph to ready for an Intercept GX, which does 60 damage times the amount of energy on the defending Pokemon, perfect for the energy-hungry Magikarp and Wailord GX. Azul takes his time setting up, gets a turn 1 Archies under the Wobbuffet, while Andrew responds with a turn 2 Garbotoxin. Eventually, Azul is able to load up his Magikarp and Wailord though, and Guzma's up the Sigilyph-GX, removing any threat in the way of his Magikarp and Wailord. Andrew is eventually able to Trashalanche, but not for a knockout, and Azul cleans up Andrew's board with a Kingdra GX. In Game 2, Andrew Martin readies his Sigilyph-GX again, sets up well, but Azul fails to find an early Archies, relying on Tate and Liza to draw him more cards on the first turn of the game. Eventually, Andrew Martin is able to get a Guzma Trashalanche on Azul's Blastoise as soon as he gets it into play, and the game quickly unfolds from there, with Andrew Martin dealing massive damage with Garbodor's Trashalanche attack, and Azul stuck with no way to accelerate energy with no Blastoise in play, and a Garbotoxin Garbodor in play on Andrew's side of the field. In Game 3, Andrew Martin starts Wobbuffet again, while Azul plays first. Azul gets a pretty ideal turn 1, sets up the Blastoise, and gets a turn 1 Let Loose, but Andrew Martin is able to draw out of it perfectly with a Computer Search on his side of the field. Both players set up, Azul manually attaching to a Magikarp and Wailord GX, while Andrew readies Trashalanche Garbodor, as well as Garbotoxin, and of course a Sigilyph-GX. Trashalanche comes in and hits Magikarp Wailord hard, and Azul is unable to find his field blowers, having to retreat the Magikarp and Wailord to the bench. At this point, Trashalanche is out of control, taking huge knockouts. Azul is able to find his field blower to attack with Onix, but it is too little too late, and by the time Azul readies an EV Snorlax GX to start attacking, Andrew is able to clean it up for a perfect 270 damage with Intercept GX. Azul has no response, and that is game. Andrew Martin emerging victorious in a field of over 380 Masters to take his first ever regional title. And that's it. Thank you guys all so much for watching my first ever regional highlights video. Make sure to let me know what you thought in the comments below. And again, big shout out to Legendary Gaming Network for covering the event live with their stream, as well as LimitlessTCG for all the statistics and deck lists. I'll drop links to both of them in the comments below. But again, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Make sure to like the video, sub to the channel, ring that bell. Check out my Twitch stream as well, weekdays on twitch.tv/TrickyJim. Peace.